Io Sky, Carlito. It's WWE's Friday Night SmackDown in Lincoln, January 12th. Tickets start at $25 and on sale now. Ticketmaster.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Your business runs like a well-oiled machine. It's important that your actual machines do too. Stern is here to make sure you don't have to worry about that. They provide solutions for heavy equipment and automotive fuels, lubricants, and equipment guard options. And with Stern's commitment to customer service for the past 40 years, you know you have a partner to help support your operations for years to come. Contact Roger at Stern Company by calling 1-800-477-2744 or visit them online at stern.co. Stern Company, where problems meet solvers.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Welcome into Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now here are your hosts, Jeff and Nicole Essig.
All right, welcome in, guys, to Fitness Fanatics. I'm Harrison Arns, back in studio running the ones and twos. We got the host, as always, Jeff and Nicole Essink, streaming in. How's the audio, guys? Can you hear me? Is everything okay on your end?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep, perfect. Audio sounds great. I know we only got 1 second, so I'll go ahead and let you guys lay it out for us.
Cool. Yeah, so we are in Iowa right now. We're going to be with you here live for the first segment, and then we're going to be doing a replay of one of our motivational speakers we had on probably about a year ago, Chip Townsend. So
yeah, 2022. It took me a while to find it.
yeah, it's been a while, but it's such a good message. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do the whole show today from here, but we at least wanted to get on and do a little quick chat and see how the mood is over there in Lincoln after the game yesterday. But I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor real quick. We are sponsored by Integrative Life Choices. ILC is hiring direct support professionals all over the state of Nebraska, full-time, part-time, days, evenings, and weekends. If you're interested, you can apply at ilc.net/careers. Direct support professionals work to ensure a meaningful life for those people they support. They work to support people in achieving their hopes and dreams. So big shout out to them. Hopefully we don't have anybody, any live studio audience watchers today, do we?
No, they got the message. No one's out in front in the studio. The mill's also closed, so they wouldn't be able to get coffee. So it worked out today. Okay.
Most of the people that come down there's like instructors, so they knew we were out of town over the weekend. So how is the mood over there in Lincoln? The sun rose.
Yeah, the world's not over. I was a little worried, but the sun did come up this morning, and I think it's a little dire. I don't think anyone's freaking out too much, but it's definitely a game where I think a lot of people got caught looking ahead once again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the way the Big Ten shook out. I will say there was some help with Minnesota and Wisconsin losing. So Nebraska were in second, but we're tied in a 3-way tie in second place. Iowa being the only one with the lead now with 4 Big Ten Conference wins. But yeah, definitely the mood. I think people were just a little surprised on how we looked yesterday, just kind of across the board. Defense, special teams, offense. It didn't really felt like we saw their best effort on any of those components. And I think that's kind of the vibe. I don't think anyone's panicking too much, but it's definitely a punch to the gut yesterday.
Yeah, and I was watching the game at my brother's house. He's obviously a big Husker fan too. It's the first game we've watched together in probably 9 years. Ironically, it was against Michigan State back in 2014, a game we lost, had a shot to win it at the end, and we didn't. But no, it was fun watching it with him. I thought so. That's a pretty good outing overall. You know, they had their Alante Brown, former Husker, throwing a beautiful pass there that looked almost better than anything we threw yesterday. So that was not very fun to see. But no, overall, it's like, yeah, I was looking ahead. I was one of those fans that Coach Rule talked about. But all week, as I was talking to people at the gym, I'd say, like, we want to be confident, and I was a little confident, but it's like we have a dog that we reach out to pet, and it's bit us for the last 7 years. So we really want to reach out there and be able to pet the dog, but we're just hesitant.
You weren't hesitant. You were all in.
I was
pretty confident going into. I picked us to win by, I think, a couple scores. I think I was like 31-17.
Well,
my prediction. So
Michigan State, they looked pretty physical. Like they had some dudes out there that their running back looked good, and I mean they just, you know, I don't really want to get into
really giving us problems too.
Yes. I don't really want to get into the refs too much, because I was just ripping on Iowa a couple weeks ago when they were just blaming everybody under the sun for the Cooper DeJean fiasco punt return. But, you know, it kind of sucked. And, I mean, the fourth quarter was just, there were kind of some iffy things on clock management. But it's still like, even if those things wouldn't have happened, I don't know if we would have been able to get the 25 yards and then get the field goal to tie it, then go to overtime and win it. So it's like,
I mean, I'll say this. I'll say this much. Nebraska didn't necessarily deserve to win, but out of respect, out of the entire Big Ten conference, we need more consistent reffing from the Big Ten as a whole. I mean, it's not just Nebraska that goes through this. We probably didn't deserve to win, but I mean, sometimes it gets a little borderline insanity out there. When I think it was Malachi Coleman just gets completely lit up on his way to the route, and to not call that one, the face mask. Again, I don't think Nebraska deserved to win that game, but the Big Ten as a whole just deserves some better officiating on a week in, week out basis. But I do want to pull up the stat, because this stat kind of says it all. 28 drives, 25 games, 9 turnovers, 8 quarterbacks, 3 head coaches, 2 scores, 1 win. And that is Nebraska's final offensive possession when losing or tied from 2018 to 2023.
And you know,
1 win out of 28 drives.
I could probably go through and talk about all 28 drives from the last 5 years. So, because we've seen them all.
If you're like me, you're probably going through the list, just like, yep, I remember that game. I remember that game. I remember that game.
Well, and they pulled up a stat too during the game yesterday. If you're watching it on TV, that like with the 1-score games in the last 7-8 years, or whatever it is, Michigan State was first in the Big Ten in 1-score wins, like their winning percentage. And Nebraska was last in the conference, and that's kind of just what happened. So, but that's it. You know, life goes on.
Belief that we were gonna come back and win it when Harburg had that nice little run, where you still just
and then they missed the field goal on top of it, and I'm like, what? Like Coach Bush will say, more games are lost than won. Right. And Michigan State was trying to lose the game, like throwing a bomb on first down that was incomplete. I mean, just giving us
string of penalties that they had. Giving
us time. This at the end of the second quarter, the Michigan State fans are probably thinking, gosh, the refs are screwing us bad in that last drive of the second quarter where they picked it off in the end zone. There's holding, there's late hits, and I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. So they were probably like on the flip side in the first half, just like, man, we're getting screwed. This is ridiculous. We got 5 penalties on this drive. But even like I didn't get to watch a lot of the games after the Nebraska game because we went out to dinner here with some family, and so I didn't get to see a lot of the Iowa game or the Minnesota game or the night games. But I did see when we're on the officiating in the Iowa State game, they had a kick return for a touchdown where the ref blew it dead at like the 35-yard line, and he was like clearly wasn't out of bounds. But it's so stupid that you go back to review and you can't review it because they blew the whistle. Like it just doesn't make sense, like with the rules like that. And then with the Cooper DeJean one a couple weeks ago, they were reviewing to see if he went out of bounds, and they're like, oh, well, he actually did a fair catch. So we'll call this. So it's like, what can you review? What can't you review? It's just really, really confusing. And in our game, at the end, like if you're Coach Rule, like you're kind of in a jam because like you don't just want the clock to run out and then be like, you guys aren't going to review this, like because Malachi clearly had a first down with 40 seconds left, and they mark him a yard short. But you can't just sit around and hope that they decide to look at it and not run a play. Well, then once you run the play, you're out of luck.
Right.
Like you can't go back and review it later. It's just, well, I mean, you can review it later if we're playing Minnesota down on the goal line. Then you can review it after a play is ran, So in that case you could, but it's just, you think like with the billions of dollars that college football brings in, and the NFL for that matter, that you could just do a better job. And I know it's tough calling plays on the field, but why can't everybody have a designated, like a replay, a building somewhere in New York where they are the replay officials? It's like with the touchdown catch that they gave Michigan State. Everybody knew it wasn't a touchdown. The ball just clearly hit the ground. Like the announcers,
the Big Ten commissioner coming on there saying, no, that to me is not a touchdown. It's clear the cone touches the ground. And then that's the commissioner of the Big Ten officiating crew.
I know. It's like,
that one hurt.
It's just like, what is going on? And same with the Iowa punt. It's like, I mean, why are the refs who called it are looking at it? And then it was funny because that when they called that a touchdown, I don't know if you noticed this, but the head official was like, he goes, after review, the call stands. Like he was celebrating. Like he's just like, touchdown. That was just amazing. Like he was just the star of the show.
It definitely felt funny, like the Michigan State's head coach got into his ear because he just kept going, come on, man. And I felt like he made eye contact when he said touchdown Michigan State.
Yeah.
But I will say one of my favorite from the commenters when they're going through the game, when they're in the victory formation, I was losing my mind because he said, you think they'll drop back and throw it?
Yeah, let's go.
Just kept throwing it on first down. But nonetheless, I mean, I'd imagine we can keep talking about college football. I'm all good for that. But
I know.
Where you guys, I feel like Nicole's just left out of the mix here.
Well, so no, one other thing we wanted to talk real quick before we get to break and get Chip on here. So it was Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Right? Couple things that are different Halloween in Nebraska than Iowa. So growing up when we were kids, for some reason in Iowa, we did not trick or treat on Halloween. We trick or treated on the day before, which they called Beggars Night.
They still do. Most cities
yes.
In Iowa, the Des Moines area.
And there was a designated time. So we would go out, it'd be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Not just willy-nilly. It's 4 o'clock and some kids knocking on your door trick-or-treating, or it's 9 p.m. and they're knocking on your door trick-or-treating. That's this is kind of weird. So our neighborhood was kind of sad. We had like 5 trick-or-treaters the whole night.
It was lame.
Yes, it was not good.
2 of them were people that we knew that were just coming to.
2 of them were gym members that just swung by the house to see us.
Yeah.
So we had 3.
Yeah, legitimate.
And then there were some kids walking by our house. Like our lights were on, the door was open.
Our street is kind of a dud. It's an older neighborhood. Not very many lights were on. So I don't know.
Oh man, so like you thinking trick-or-treaters are like, let's go around this neighborhood when they're making their route?
Probably like looking down our street and there's not very many lights on. We had our lights on, but I mean,
but would you guys rather have like kid after kid after kid and having to be by the door, or would you rather have a day where you're just hanging out?
Well,
I love it. It's fun.
Now, it was more fun. Now, here's another thing in Iowa.
Yeah.
Now, we had to earn our candy.
Yes.
We had to tell a joke.
Yes. I loved that.
At every single house.
I mean, you told the same joke all night long. You didn't have to, it wasn't a comedy hour.
I was gonna say, who's keeping track of that between the parents? You
can
just keep using the same one.
So kids would come up and we'd say, hey, okay, what's your joke?
Yeah. That was always fun. I loved hearing the jokes, the kids' jokes.
So our first time here,
we don't do that.
2018, the kids come up and I'm like, because I didn't know that nobody told the joke here. So I'm like, well, do you have a joke? And they're just looking at me like, here's my bag.
For candy.
Here, put this in my bag.
I know.
Like,
I do miss that.
Yeah.
But so a couple things too that I want to talk about. First of all, I want to shout out, good luck to everybody running the Good Life Halvesy.
Yes.
We're out of town this weekend a little unexpectedly. We had some family stuff we had to take care of. And so we actually weren't able to do the Halvesy today, which is why we already had a pre-recorded one.
Yeah, we're already ready to go.
So good luck to everybody that is out there right now. So hopefully everyone's having a good race.
I'm sure Mark's listening.
Maybe. But so I wanted to say that.
Early this morning, getting his morning errands done already as I'm walking by the studio. So
hopefully everyone's doing great. We did switch to virtual for the Halvesy. So I'm still planning on completing the half marathon. I'd be surprised if you do. But
when do we have to have that done by?
Like the 15th, maybe. I'll have to look. But so good luck to everyone. But I am planning on still doing it. I'm actually thinking about doing it on a treadmill as an extra challenge, because that's something I feel like not a lot of people do.
So how do you prove that if you do it on a treadmill?
I don't know. I can probably use my Apple Watch, my heart rate monitor.
Okay.
That'll show it. I don't know. I'm going to make sure first, because I'm not going to do a half marathon on the treadmill and then have them say it doesn't count. But I kind of want to do that as just a mental challenge, because that's brutal.
That is. Treadmills.
You might want to take advantage of the weather, though, unless it's not as nice where you're at. But we got nice, beautiful weather. I'm kind of surprised. Like we're looking at 50s and 60s for like the entire next week. So if you're going to run outside, it's kind of the time
I know. So I'm still kind of deciding, but I'm planning on still completing it, doing it virtual in the sense that you do it on your own and you submit your time and your whatever to the Halvesy.
Jeff, what about you? You kind of cringed when you heard you only have about 10 days left.
She's not going to do it. Yeah.
Can I drive the 13 miles?
No.
Or bike ride?
No, probably not.
Drive and then just move your
just move it around
over and over.
Look at all my steps I got.
I was surprised. I was surprised when you said that I asked to switch yours to virtual too. But we'll see. But I'm planning on still doing it. Kind of sad, bummed that we couldn't be there today to do it, but we'll still get it done. But then the other thing we were going to talk about, because again, we're in Iowa, haven't been in Iowa during football season, probably for
since
a while.
2017.
Yeah. So we watched the Nebraska game with Jeff's brother, and then we were running some errands, doing some stuff, and we had to stop at a Walmart here. And the Iowa game was on. And I know we're in Des Moines, and that's how far from Iowa City. I mean, and it wasn't
2 hours
there.
2 hours from Iowa City.
So, I mean, I get it. It's not the college town the way Lincoln is. But we went into Walmart, and it was the busiest I have ever seen Walmart post-COVID. Like, it was so busy. And I was just like, Lincoln would never. Lincoln is a ghost town during games. It was shocking how many people wearing Iowa gear were at Walmart while the game was on. I was just shocked by that.
Well, maybe they didn't have Peacock.
Maybe,
right?
But you can still listen to it on the radio, like old school, because we did. We listened to it on the radio.
Yeah, we were listening to it.
I mean, Nebraska fans would find a way regardless, I think is the point. Even if it's they don't have Peacock. That is a little surprising. Right. I figured Iowa would be pretty close to die hard as Nebraska fans would be, and not.
And I guess I just when we lived in Iowa, I didn't pay attention. But when you live in Lincoln, like it is shocking. I remember going to a store the first time we lived in Lincoln during a football game. And not only was it a ghost town, but they were playing the game over the PA system. So you still hear the game while you're grocery shopping.
And I remember.
So I like that a lot. I like that about living in Lincoln for sure.
I remember when I was a kid and we came to Lincoln and on a football weekend, and I thought it was so cool. Maybe I've been like 10, 12, 13. And the family ordered Valentinos, and I was with my dad or whoever went to go pick it up. And I just remember the lady gave us the pizza and she said, "Go Big Red." Mm-hmm. I thought that was the coolest thing when I was a kid. Like,
it is cool.
They're just saying this like all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really hear that in Iowa, like, "Go Hawks."
No.
Right?
But we did see someone in Walmart wearing a Nebraska sweatshirt.
Yep, we did.
And we just kind of went, "Go Big Red."
I should have said something.
Not to her. We didn't say it to her. We just kind of like.
I should have said something.
Yeah, you got to let them. They're in enemy territory. You got to shut them out and let them know they're not alone. Be like, we're Nebraska fans too.
I know. So yeah, he didn't. But
I wasn't wearing a Nebraska shirt though.
That is also interesting to note. Jeff was not wearing a red shirt yesterday during the game.
I was wearing my white Nebraska hoodie, so I wasn't wearing red either. Maybe that's why. Maybe I'm the reason to blame.
You weren't even wearing Nebraska.
I had my Nebraska hat on.
Okay. I don't know. Might be part of
I did have a Nebraska sweatshirt, but I spilled on it. Remember? So there's stains on it. Stains on it. Now we did, even though we were gone, we did go get our workout in on Saturday.
Yep.
So if any of our members are listening, we could have made an excuse and said, "Well, we're just not at our home gym, so we're just not going to go." So we did go to the 6 a.m. strength training class at Waukee.
Farrell's.
Yep. So we got up. Well, we were out of town at 5 o'clock in the morning and went and worked out at 6. And so that was pretty cool to get into another gym. I will tell you, they did not appreciate. Now we have my zone heart rate monitors, and my screen name for the heart rate monitor is Iowa Sucks. Iowa SUX.
Right. And
they did not appreciate Iowa Sucks being up on their television during the workout.
Yeah. It was really not that big of a deal.
And the instructor was an Iowa fan because she said, "I bleed." And this is really interesting too, because she was like, "I bleed black and gold." And then she was making a comment about how bad the season is. And I'm just like thinking, like, the manager at Waukee, he's from Illinois. So he's an Illinois fan. And I was like, "Hey, Michael." And he looked back and I was like, "Wow, 6-2. That's just terrible, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Right. Because he's, Illinois. Illinois playing a lot better.
But it's been a rough season for them too.
Yeah. But yeah, Iowa 6. She's just like, "Oh, it's just been a rough season." I'm just like, "Rough season."
I know.
Now they're 7-2, but it is such an anomaly because they're 7-2. They had 169 yards of offense. Their only touchdown came off of a blocked punt. So the drive was 20 yards.
Yeah.
And it's just
typical.
But they're winning, right?
Yeah.
And I think we all would love for Nebraska to be 7-2 right now, no matter how it looked. So it's just the strangest, the strangest story that there is. Like, you're so bad, but yet you're 7-2.
I know.
But I still have the hope, and I'm being positive, that if Nebraska wins their next 2 games and Iowa wins their next 2 games, we got an Iowa-Nebraska Big Ten West championship game in Lincoln on Black Friday to end the Big Ten West. Now, wouldn't that be amazing?
Would be cool.
It would be. And it's totally possible too, which is crazy. Again, can't stress enough how big of a help yesterday was with Minnesota and Wisconsin not taking advantage either. Because after that game, I was like, Well, there we go. We kind of dropped the ball on that one, but we got real lucky and having Iowa and Wisconsin both on the schedule still.
Yeah,
Minnesota's a tough one just because they got the tiebreaker, so we're gonna have to hope for them to drop a game here. But nonetheless, like it is it's still out on the table, and I just hope for the most part, like the players and everyone's just kind of thinking the same thing. It still sees year one. That is a bad showing, but I still think they're kind of working that out of their system. Finding ways to finish games, and it is just an incredibly beat up offense. I know people freak out the way it looks so disconjointed all the time, but I mean, what is an offense when you got 3 new linemen, you got wide receivers coming in and out, you got running backs? If your expectation for that to be a smooth running offense after it's not probably going to be at any point during the season, but there's still kind of Iowa ways to win games that I think that was what was disappointing yesterday. It's like we didn't expect an offensive, powerhouse to come out there, but there's definitely some dropped balls by wide receivers that, everyone wants to blame Harburg. But there's definitely some drop balls by the wide receivers, some blocking assignments, not really helping the running back. He was getting hit in the backfield a lot. I mean, the tackles for loss was bad yesterday too. So there's a lot of things across the board that we just didn't show up in all the phases.
Yeah. Well, before we go,
no, I have something before we go.
Oh,
we're going to end on a positive
Nebraska
note.
Volleyball.
More than just that.
Oh,
we're going to end on a positive note since we have, motivational show coming up too. So definitely still stick around, even though it's going to be a one, replay. But we did have women's volleyball one on Friday, which we did watch some of that, but then we had to go to sleep. Women's bowling has done really well this weekend.
Yep. And Amara, she's been on our show.
Yep. And wrestling did well too. So we, we're not just a football school, we can definitely end on the positives of our
all positives
sports
and
that are carrying the school.
Yes. And basketball,
soccer. I got to get I know they were, if they played in Ohio State or if they haven't yet, because I know they won the quarterfinals. I'm going to look that up real quick while you guys keep talking, because I do want to shout them out.
Soccer.
Oh, yeah. That I'm not sure.
And I believe that basketball kicks off tomorrow night against the team I've never heard of. So hopefully they will be able to get to 1-0 as well. Lindenwood or something like that. So I'm excited. I might have to pony up and get BTN Plus so I can watch some of these games that the basketball team plays on tomorrow. But I think that's going to be it. Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. So we would unfortunately lose to Wisconsin 1-3, and that was November 2nd. So that's been a while. I had to get the update on that one, but nonetheless, they had a good season as well. So I wanted to shout out all those sports.
Women's soccer had a great season. So just want to end on that. There's other sports in our arsenal that are carrying everybody. So congrats to those programs.
Yep. So we'll call it a day here.
Yep.
Hang with us if you want to get a good positive message by Chip Townsend. And we are on the episode, so we will still be here. It's just a year ago us.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you we look exactly the same. So
you guys, I think, are repping the exact same hats you're wearing now.
Probably.
No, my hat was different.
Well, mine would be, yes.
Yeah.
This would be the same. Yes. All right, Jeff, break it down for us, and I'll throw it to break.
Yeah.
All right. Yep, that's it.
He just said,
Oh,
okay. Thanks, Harrison.
We'll have the replay with Chip Townsend up next. Don't go anywhere. We'll talk to you guys after the break.
All right.
Integrated Life Choices has been inspiring opportunities for individuals with disabilities for more than 15 years in Lincoln and across Nebraska by offering a number of services. From group homes to independent living resources and job training, you'll find the support that allows people to live fulfilling lives. They're also hiring. If you're looking for a rewarding career supporting people with developmental disabilities, you can check out open positions along with learning more about services at ilc.net. Integrated Life Choices.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club or space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about a margarita club? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge and join the best club in town. 10 flavors of margaritas like Maui Wowie, burnt pineapple, and mango tango. Try all 10 of them and receive your own souvenir margarita glass. Make it your new Monday night tradition. $4 margaritas and $4 taco baskets. Grab the crew and head on over. Monday nights or any night. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Real estate. When I became a licensed realtor, I wanted a brokerage that would help me
If you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all those platforms, you can see on screen we're joined by Chip and his wife, Glenn Ann Townsend. How are you guys?
Awesome. We're fantastic. How are you guys today?
Okay, good. I asked that so we get a sound check. So.
Yeah, basically that.
But we're good. I don't know if you were listening to our first segment. Were you listening to the first segment at all?
I'm so sorry. We missed the first piece.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. If you could see, I brought this in.
Oh.
Right.
I know what that is.
Right. So I was sharing this story right at the beginning. I'll share it real quick while I have you on in case somebody missed the first segment. So now you don't know this, Chip, but when we were writing down stuff on the board, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. We have a board. We're writing this stuff down.
Did you not even put it together at that point?
No.
Okay.
No. So I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I have a board. I'm going to bring this home with me. I have this stuff wrote down. I'm taking notes on a board, which right. So then when we all stood up and you were wanting people to break boards, I was like, certainly I don't have to do this. Like, we're not all going to be doing this because I was a little scared. Like, there's no way I could do this. And then it was funny because I sat at the wrong table on day one. I was supposed to be at like table 2, which was right up front, but I sat at table 10, which is kind of in the middle. So I got a little bit more relaxed as people were coming up there and breaking the boards, And then I thought, and I'm sure other people thought, oh, they're just made to be like, you just touch them with your finger and they'll break. So I'm like, I got this.
You were holding the board.
I know.
You knew it was a real board?
Yeah, but
I'm getting new pieces of information that I've never had.
No. So
I heard this story.
So then there were people that did not break the board, and I was like, okay. So apparently now I have to try to do this. And I was nervous the whole time, and then when I get up front and Lance Farrell's holding the board, that makes the nerves even raise even more. But I did it. I broke the board, and it was very empowering. So that night I was thinking, this would be great to have Chip come on our show and kind of share with our listeners and our Farrell's members, and hopefully the other Farrell's owners will share this podcast with all of their members and stuff like that, so they can hear the same awesome message that we all got to hear at the extravaganza. So before we get going, Chip, let's get a quick introduction for our listeners that don't know who you are. So I'm just going to read a little bit here, and then we'll get going. So Chip is a certified John Maxwell speaker and teacher. He is a highly sought-after public speaker who motivates all ages. Chip devotes hours to community service and has been requested to speak about leadership and team building for success at local businesses and organizations such as Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping. To say he is an accomplished martial artist is an understatement. He holds 14 International Sport Karate Association world titles in breaking, plus 7 ISKA world records. He performs stunts that martial artists with 2 eyes struggle with or cannot fathom, like me breaking one board. He has been featured on ESPN, the Discovery Channel, and NBC's America's Got Talent. Chip is also a multi-time Hall of Fame inductee for martial arts. It is these successes that have become a powerful platform for impacting others. So welcome to the Fitness Fanatics. We are in Lincoln, Nebraska, and you guys are in Texas, correct?
We are in Abilene, Texas, kind of central Texas, in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Hello.
Now, do you have family in Omaha?
I do. I have a nephew that's up there. My nephew, my sister. The long and short of it is my nephew kind of half grew up with me as a kid in the summertime, training martial arts at my martial arts school here in Texas, and ended up working for the railroad for several years and got moved to headquarters for Union Pacific up in Omaha, and then decided he didn't love his life that much, and has a beautiful wife and 2 boys, have been married for many, many years, and decided to go to law school. And so he started going, he quit his job, went to law school, now he's an attorney there in Omaha.
Okay. I remember at the extravaganza, you're like, well, I'm going to be in Omaha, but we'd already had somebody scheduled for that Sunday for our guests. So I appreciate you two taking time out of your busy Sunday morning to be with us. Chip, give us a little bit about your background growing up. I mean, most people just don't decide, hey, I'm going to break cement bricks and blocks and baseball bats. And, so kind of give us a little background and how this whole thing got started with you.
Very cool. So first, what I want to do is introduce my brains. This is my beautiful wife, Glenann, of just over 30 years. And so she's a huge part of why I got started. That's why I asked her to be in here with me today. When I was 13, I started martial arts. I started traditional Taekwondo. The reason is when I was 3, or part of the reason when I was 3 years old, I lost an eye. So I have a prosthetic eye. So you're going to see me if I have to look at my other screen, put on my glasses to see my other screen. But yeah, old man problems these days. So I have a prosthetic eye, freak accident, riding in a truck with my dad. A welding rod falls through the hole in the floor of the truck, doesn't go all the way out, bounces back, hits me in the eye. So that impacted kind of the direction of life, I think. In my mind, it's God kind of opening and closing doors, maybe. Some open, some closed at that point. So at going through school, in elementary and junior high, my eye would fall out at different times, and it looked funny compared to my other eye. It doesn't move as well, so sometimes people think I have a lazy eye. There are all these things, but when you're an elementary and especially junior high kid, and those really malleable years of your life when you're being molded, you're getting hammered all the time, right? And so one day I'm in a health check line. They're doing the lice check and the scoliosis check, and we're all in this long line, and the kid behind me is the kid that's failed a couple of years of school. He's the killer athlete of our age group because he's like a year or two older than all of us. And I'm like, man, I don't want to make eye contact with him. And I eventually do. And he said, Townsend, I'm going to knock your other eye out. And I thought, I don't know what I would do, man. I was a little bit scared because this guy's a bull, right? And I'm like, okay. So I break eye contact and stay focused on the front to get through the line. And it was that time frame that, we happened to drive by the martial arts school here in Abilene that we own now. And as we were going by, it was like the first day of a summer. I was 13 years old, and usually I was off working with my dad because I've worked for my dad since I was like 4, whole different story. And I said, Mom, I kind of want to do that stuff. And she turns around and pulls in and signs me up. And we live like 25 miles out of town. So my mom was super dedicated that summer, and I skipped a lot of work with my dad that summer, and she brought me every day, 5 days a week, like 25 miles in and out to come and train. And that's where I got started in martial arts. So
awesome. So what kind of led into some of this crazy stuff that you've done on ESPN and AGT, and was that your brainchild or was that your wife's?
So it was sort of an accident. One day I was at home cleaning, had the TV on, and it was on ESPN, and this competition comes on and people are breaking things, and I'm like, this is a competition? They actually have, and I'm watching it, and I called Chip and I was like, oh my gosh, there's this thing on ESPN. If they're breaking bricks, they're breaking boards. Wait. You would kill at this. This is awesome.
Hold on. She says there's breaking on TV. And my first thought, this is a true story. I said, honey, I don't dance.
You're also showing our age because they probably don't even know what that means.
Yes, we do. We know.
I'm showing her age, not mine. But go ahead, you can finish your story.
Yeah, and so I just called him and I was like, hey, you would do great at this because we've done breaking in our curriculum from day one. I mean, literally your first belt test is a white belt, you break a board. So it wasn't something that was outside of the norm. And so we tracked down, I don't even know how we tracked them down because this was this was
pre-internet.
Yeah, there was internet, but it was not like it is now. I don't know how we found them, but we did. And they said, send a video. So we literally sent a spliced together VHS. That's those things that you don't even have. Yeah. Does anybody have a VHS anymore? But anyway, we sent a VHS to them and overnighted it because we were super excited. And the next day we get a call, hey, we want you. That was awesome. And so then we're like, okay, now what? We got in. What do we do next?
Hey, man, you guys have heard, people get paralysis by analysis because they aim, and they never fire, right? I mean, I know that's the analogy, but so what we did is we fired. And then it was like, oh my God, now we got to aim. What do we do next, right?
Now, the only thing I knew about breaking anything was on the Karate Kid Part 2. when he broke 6 blocks of ice. Now, have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
So before you break anything, I mean, you know, Daniel did this thing where he's just right to get him psyched up, right? To break those 6 blocks of ice with one chop. I was like, nobody can do that. So what is there anything that, like, you know, he does his little breathing and this and then, and I know, I mean, that's real life stuff that he's doing that. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously it's not real. So what do you use to get you motivated, fired up before you're going to break cement blocks?
That's a great question.
That's like the question of the day. It's a beautiful question. So first and foremost, you never walk in the ring to fight, because prior to breaking, I fought for a long time. I fought Pan American team trials for Taekwondo. I point fought for a long time. And you never go in the ring cold. You hit or get hit when you're cold, and you hit what we call the cold. I call it the cold wall. Your breathing kind of locks up. Your blood vessels are all constricted. You haven't warmed up and dilated things and gotten blood in your muscles. And so the first thing is you warm up. So backstage, whenever I'm at a world breaking competition or doing some sort of high level demonstration somewhere, I always come on stage sweating.
But you need to tell the story of where you actually learned that, because you did not just intuitively know that.
You didn't create that?
I did not create that. Okay. So I'm sure someone much smarter than me somewhere came up with this idea, right? But I remember as a kid watching boxing matches, and they would say, man, he's not sweating yet. He's not warmed up. This is a problem. And sometimes those guys would just get knocked out in the first round. And so you begin to learn those things, I think, and pick up on it. But one time I was sitting in my office at our martial arts school. So you got to keep in mind, when we took over our school, we literally had 55 students in this little place in Abilene, Texas, a little hole in the wall school, right? My instructor leaves, we buy it and take it over, and I hand over all of our life savings to buy this rented property, not buy it, but get a rented property with some junky old equipment. And it's like, okay, here we go. We just shot. Now we got to start aiming again, right? So we got to make this work. So I had tons of time in my office because there were only like 2 or 3 classes a day, 5 days a week. And so I'm in my office twiddling my thumbs, looking at my phone going, please ring. So anyway, the point of the story is one day I'm in my office, I'm a little bored, and I'm not a reader at this time. So I thought I was too smart for books, by the way. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I need to do something. And so I had this idea. I'm like, I wonder if I could speed break a brick. And a brick, a 2-inch by 8-inch by 16-inch block they call them cap blocks. So I jumped out of my chair, I walked into my gym, and I stood the brick up, just stood it up on a chair, and I kicked it, and I broke it. And this is a true story. I felt like it rattled my teeth, like they wanted to come out. My whole body hurt. I walked in my office and I sat down. I felt kind of sick to my stomach, and I thought, man, why did that hurt so bad? And so I called my instructor, this little old Korean guy, and I said, Master Lim, I just walked back and I broke this brick like this. And he said, boy, you're so crazy. Why'd you do that? And I said, I don't know. I just wanted to try it. And I said, why did it hurt so bad? And he said, did you warm up first? I went, oh. So anyway, the mindset of breaking, Daniel San does his little ritual. For me, it's warm up good, right? It's warm up good, hit bags, get some sweat going. And then when I walk onto the stage, before I walk on the stage, I spend a ton of time visualizing, walking through that break or those breaks over and seeing them happen in my mind, seeing them happen like masterfully in my mind, for lack of better words. And then when I get on stage, I try to see each individual break. If it's a routine or if it's just one, I just see that one and try to keep myself calm and slow. And I imagine someone between me and her, or me and my kids. And that's where I go in my mind. And I just tell myself there's absolutely nothing that can stop me coming forward. Does that make sense? And
yeah,
so it's
that's
very
powerful.
It's very much mindset.
Very cool.
I didn't introduce you guys. This is, you might be like, who's this person on with me? Okay, so
yeah.
This is my wife, Nicole.
Yeah.
She wasn't at the extravaganza. We have two Farrell's locations here in Lincoln, and our son had just started school, so it's kind of bad timing.
First day of school.
First day of school, yeah, was that Wednesday. But Nicole and I have been married for over 24 years. So we've gone through the Farrell's business and ownership together over the last 9 years. So this is my wife, Nicole. So when Chip, you said this is the brains behind the operation, was your wife. I should have interjected and said, this is the brains behind our operation at Farrell's.
Yeah.
No, when you said married for 24 years and own 2 locations, I already knew the truth, man. I just knew right away. I was like, we have the meat and we have the brains, and but that's the way I tell people all the time. I'm just the meathead that makes things happen, and she's the brains.
So how many studios do you have down there? Like for your main business, I know you break boards and stuff like that, but for like your main studios, what do you guys do down there for the kids and all that stuff?
We have 2 headquarters owned locations, one in Abilene, one in San Angelo, and then we have several affiliates. You're gonna have to give me the count. I don't know the count.
Yeah, we have 2 corporate locations here in Texas that we own, and between those 2 locations, we have 600 active students. I had to think for a second. We have just under 400 at one and about 200 at the other active traditional martial arts students. And then we have 4 what we call affiliate locations, which are licensed locations, not really a full franchise, but we have 2 in Oklahoma, 1 in Mississippi, and 1 in Montana. So we have 6 total locations. And that's one of the things that we're going through this, like we're going through life and it's a life cycle. And now we're at this point where we want to create something that other people can live their passion. Martial arts is a very passionate thing, I think, that has a monster, just like you guys, a monster impact on your community through fitness, positive environment, and all of these things, right? And we want to create that opportunity for people to be able to do that in their little small towns and live a life they can love and feel like they're contributing and they're an asset. I think in business terms, don't be a liability and take from your community. How much can you give, man? We're supposed to serve. So but anyway, that's where we're at.
Every day going dreading going to work. It's like getting up every day and going, all right, we've got this going, and it's an excitement that not everybody gets to experience, and we think that that's sad. Everybody should be able to.
To speak to that just a tiny bit too, and I don't want to get us too off track, but so many people are like, they spend their life, they go to school, they get an education, and they get this career, and then all of a sudden 2 years in, they're going, well, I have to go to work today, and I have to go do this. And really it should be, man, I worked hard. I dreamed about this 10 years ago. And guess what? I get to go to work today because I have a great job. And so, man, and there we go back to mindset again. So I could beat that horse for a long time.
Well, we are up against a break. We're going to have a short segment when we come back. So while we're on break, I want you to think about, we want to hear some cool stories about maybe like America's Got Talent, ESPN, just for a few minutes. And then when we get to the top of the hour, we'll get into our motivation. All right. We'll be right back. 93.7 The Ticket, coming right back at you, Fitness Fanatics.
Sunday morning. It's quiet, not in a weird, too quiet way. Calm, peaceful, tranquil. You pour yourself that cup of coffee. You slice yourself a hearty chunk of one of Beatrice Bakery's breakfast breads. Now, maybe you're an apple streusel guy. Nothing wrong with that. I can respect that. Personally, I'm a turtle nut man. Something about those pecans. But the real ones know, don't sleep on that date nut bread. Sweet, but not too sweet. Nutty, not overly. The perfect morning treat. Beatrice Bakery. Online at beatricebakery.com. Welcome to our world of yum.
At Venue Catering and Events, we offer 2 of the most historic ballrooms in Lincoln. The Jasmine Room, located in the historic Grand Manse in the heart of downtown, featuring a beautiful built-in antique bar, spacious patio, and soaring skylit ceilings. The Scottish Rite Ballroom, located just 2 blocks from the state's capital, boasts intricate hand-carved columns, rich dark wood floors, and lavish chandeliers. The perfect venues to host your wedding, corporate event, or much more. For availability and more information, call us at 402-603-6483.
An entire week celebrating Lincoln's craft brewers is just around the corner. September 26th through October 2nd is Lincoln Craft Brew Week. Head to lincoln.org/beer tour for a complete schedule of events at your favorite local establishments. Brought to you by the Lincoln Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a story that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family, things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, We just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You joined because you are not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Let's do it. Let's get away. Let's go outside, cast a line, and reel in good times with our family and friends. Get a little peace, quiet, and relaxation, and make some memories that will last a lifetime. Let's do it. Let's Fish Nebraska. Start planning your fishing trip today at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. The education assistance I received made it possible for me to be the first person in my family to go to school and graduate debt-free. That education helped get me to the first day at my dream job, a job that I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job, plus the other benefits possible from the Army National Guard, helped me become a first-time homeowner. Also, part of my role as a National Guard soldier means I know that I can be one of the first to respond and help my community if disaster ever strikes. I'm extremely proud that I get to serve my community, and that first step I took by joining the Army National Guard has made all the difference in my life. Talk to your local recruiter or visit nationalguard.com to find out what firsts are available to you in the Army National Guard.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Now back to Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in to the Fitness Fanatics. We are joined here by Chip Townsend and his wife, Glenn Ann. We have about 4 minutes, Chip, on this next segment. So Nicole and I were wanting to talk about your time on America's Got Talent because we watch that show all the time. So we just want to when were you on that? What year? Who were the judges, if you remember that? Because then we can kind of tell our kids because we all kind of watch that show every single week. So they had those they actually had that karate board breaking group on the last season. That was cool. Pretty, I don't know if you saw that, but they were just doing flips and kicking, breaking boards.
It was more artistic, I feel like, but it was still cool.
Yeah, so share us a little bit about that.
So that was kind of a fun, it is a fun story. That was, if I remember correctly, it was 2010 or 2012. I can't remember. It's been quite a few years ago that we were on. And we became one of those, they called them the disappearing acts. And so it was really weird. I was driving between Abilene and Breckenridge, just a little town here in Texas. A friend of mine ran a martial arts school over there, and he had called me and was having some struggles. And I actually drove over to help him with some stuff. And as I'm driving, I get this phone call, and it's a talent agent. And at first I thought it was a joke. And they're like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I represent such and such talent agency, and I'm calling about America's Got Talent. Truth be known, I really watch TV. And so I haven't watched any America's Got Talent since then, other than going to YouTube and picking up a video here or there. I've watched the World Taekwondo team do their demonstration. They're phenomenal. But yeah, so I mean, I'm familiar with some of that. And so I start talking. I'm like, who is this? So I thought it was a joke. And the person's like, oh, no, we've been following you and we want you to come be on America's Got Talent. I'm like, yeah, right. What's the catch? What are you trying to sell me? What's the deal here? Because I thought it was a gimmick. So I ended up pulling off the side of the road on this little farm road between here and Breckenridge, Texas, for like almost an hour talking to this talent agent, trying to figure out if this was real or not real, right? So it turned out to be real. They said, we want you to be on. Would you be willing to come over to Dallas, which is about 3 hours for me drive-wise, and do what do you call it?
An audition.
An audition. See, my brain has to remember my words, right? And so I said, I finally agreed to it. They sent me a bunch of paperwork. I signed up, and I go to Dallas. I do the audition, and in my audition, they have these big paper banners as backdrops because they're filming these individual auditions in these little breakout rooms all around the convention center. And when I did a speed break on a baseball bat, as the top came off the bat, I ripped their entire banner down. And I thought, oh my God, they're gonna boot me out of here, right?
With a bill.
Yeah.
right. And so anyway, so I get done and I look at them and I finish my little routine. And they're all sitting there with their eyes like this, and they're like, you're in. I was like, okay. So anyway, we trained and trained. And we went back and we did another film segment. The judges were Sharon Osbourne, Howie Mandel, and Simon, the British guy.
Yeah, Simon Cowell.
Yeah, Simon Cowell. That's it. And Howie Mandel, he's a germaphobe, right? So he won't make contact with you, but he's a super nice guy. Sharon Osbourne actually was appalled, in her words, at my routine and at our breaking and our demonstration. And so two of them passed us, and she failed us, and so we passed the judging basically. Anyway, we got a phone call, so we started training really hard for the Vegas round. And we put together a routine. I did not want to do it by myself. I had a handful of guys that held stuff for me or my team and always have been when I compete. So I reached out to our little young demo team, and we had about 15 at the time. We took about 15 black belts, ages like 9, 10 years old up to, 30, 40-year-old adults. And we trained up, built a routine. We're prepping. We're doing the demo here locally at different events to get practice on stage. And it's going great. And we get a call about a week and a half or 2 weeks prior to flying to Vegas. And they said, hey, I'm so-and-so from Talent Agent. You just got cut from the show. And so we don't really know what happened. And I said, do you know why? And he said, it's a closed door meeting and they hand us a list. And we have to call people and tell them they're cut. We have no idea. And so anyway, it was a fun experience. The kids that got to go be filmed and be on that was a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. And that was good for us. We were super happy with it. The problem with it became, what happened? Where'd you go? Why are you not on the show? So we answered a million questions forever about, we don't really know. We just got cut.
All right.
Yeah,
well, we are
that's cool.
Up against the break. When we come back, we're going to get you motivated with Chip and Glenn and Townsend. Coming right back. 93.7 The Ticket, Fitness Fanatics.
A good game with good friends. But isn't it time to up the score when it comes to the food? Wings and Rings is here for every football fan. Catch the game on one of their big screens or snag a tail great pack to go. They're cranking up the heat and throwing in mad flavor this season. Stop by your locally owned Wings and Rings on O Street, Meridian Park, or 48th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village, or grab some crave-worthy Wings and Rings to go. Make them your go-to destination to watch your team bring home the win. Wings and Rings. Game time just got better.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
With a remote control, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more. When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it. We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors. Whether they are in the mountains of New Mexico, the plains of Nebraska and Kansas, the ranches of Oklahoma and Texas, the farmlands of Missouri and Arkansas, or the bayous of Louisiana, we are here for our hometowns. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Guys, a couple months ago, I told you how I lost 36 pounds by taking part in the 10-week challenge at Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping. Well, now, after another 10 weeks, I'm down over 60 pounds, and I'm feeling stronger than I can ever remember. Farrell's uses a trusted method that combines kickboxing, strength training, nutrition, and personalized coaching to set you up for success. The next 10-week challenge begins on October 1st, and you can join for half off by mentioning the ticket. Head to fxblincoln.com to learn more and join the 10-week challenge with Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping for 50% off.
Welcome into Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now here are your hosts, Jeff and Nicole Essig.
Hey, welcome back into the Fitness Fanatics. If you're listening now or you're listening on podcast, this would be a good time to get a piece of paper and a pen to take some notes, because this is going to be some awesome stuff over the next 35, 40 minutes. So we're just going to turn this over to our guest, Chip Townsend. He's on with his wife, Glenn Ann, and he's just going to take the floor. It's going to be some awesome motivational stuff for you. So again, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen. If you don't have one, pause the podcast and go get one so you can take notes. Because if you don't take notes, you'll forget, right? So let's get that ready. So I'm going to turn this over to Chip, leave it to you. And if you have any questions for Nicole and I as we're going, feel free to ask.
Absolutely, man. I'm pumped. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I just wanted to correct you on one thing, if that's okay. I don't want them to get paper. I need them to get their karate paper.
Everybody has laying around their house.
Everybody has a piece of karate paper laying around, right, man? So anyway, I'm just kidding. So we call our boards whenever I go out and I do these things, I call them the karate paper, and I have people write their problems down. So what I wanted to talk about today a little bit is Team Chip. And first and foremost, yes, my name is involved in that, but it was kind of an accident. So I'll tell that story real fast. We were getting ready for an ESPN competition, and it was going to be broadcast worldwide. And I am prepping up for a world championship opportunity. And they hand us a piece of paper and they say, hey, we need your bio. Like, bio, what does that mean? You know, like biography. Oh, okay, so about me. And so I'm filling this thing out, and it's a questionnaire, like, you know, where are you from? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? And I realized, you know, okay, this is so the commentators have something to say in those awkward, quiet moments, right? And so I'm filling this thing out, and it comes to team name. And I looked around at, you know, a handful of my black belts are sitting around with me in the hotel room, and I said, hey, guys, we're supposed to have a team name. And someone goes, Team Chip. And I went, no, we need a team name. Can we come up with something better than that? And they were all like, no, it's great. Just Team Chip. We're happy. You know, like, are y'all sure? And they're like, yeah. So I wrote Team Chip on the paper. And then as this airs on ESPN and airs internationally on, you know, multiple networks and stuff over a couple of years, I start meeting people outside of Texas, especially outside of our hometown. And they would ask me, what's the name of your martial arts school? And I would tell them it's Master Lim's Taekwondo Academy. And they would get this confused look and go, what is that? And I would say, oh, that's our business name. So we decided that because our name had been kind of marketed as Team Chip internationally, we would transition the name of our business. So I always qualify that because I hate the feeling of it being a vanity name, because it's really not. It was just kind of an accident, a happy accident that worked out. But with that said, through the years, we like to think in terms of kind of filters. So I like to have filters to run things through to make decisions. Okay, so like a heavy decision comes into our business, comes into our home, a decision about our children, you know, and parenting, any area. And so we like to have a filter. And so, you know, what does that mean? Team Chip is an acronym, and each letter has a, you know, represents something else to us. So the T of Team Chip is teachable. And what that means is and I put it in the terms of leadership. A lot of times people, you know, you ask people, are you a leader? And they'll say no. And so I'll ask them, like, do you have children? Well, yes. Okay, so you lead your children. Do you have coworkers that look up to you, or maybe subordinates at work? Well, I do. Okay, well, you lead them. And if it's kids, a lot of times they'll say, oh, I'm not a leader. Well, do you have younger siblings? Well, of course, I do. Well, do they look up to you and follow what you do? Yes. Okay, then you're a leader. And so when you begin to open that idea up, so I speak in terms of leadership a lot, because everything we do in some area in our life, we lead people, right? And so it's whether my younger siblings looking up to me, or the cousin that comes to play in my front yard is following what I'm doing, good or bad, I'm leading people around. And so I want people to understand constantly that no matter what you do, there are eyes and ears on you, and you're impacting people. So back to the T of teachable. From a leadership perspective, all great leaders have what we call a teachable mind. It doesn't mean that I have the ability to be taught. It means that I have a hunger to learn. And that's the way we kind of define it. It's a little unique maybe, but we say, you know, you don't just aren't able to be taught. You should be hungry for knowledge. You should be hungry for wisdom. You should be hungry to better yourself. I believe that we were put here with gifts inside of us, and we're supposed to take those gifts and hone them and use them and give them away at every opportunity and wear them out before we're done. And so teachable to me is a person who, and I want to also add another dynamic to that. If I'm an employee, I ask my team as a business owner almost every day, is there anything I can do better for you? I ask somebody every day, is there anything you need from me that I can help you with? And if they go, hey, Chip, yesterday you said something mean to me, which happens sometimes, it's rare, I don't get offended by that, because a teachable mindset says that I'm open to feedback. I'm willing to hear you. And I want to learn what I did wrong if I did something wrong. Or I also want to learn something new and how I can improve the way we interact our lives together. So the T is teachable. The E of the teamship acronym is excellence. And it's really pretty simple. We're far from perfect as humans, but I encourage people to, even the smallest things in your life, to attack it, and I use that word intentionally, with excellence. Don't just sit and wait for great things to happen to you. Go make great things happen. Take action. Action leads motivation. So excellence is about, if I get up and make my bed in the morning, I make it well. If I carry out the trash, I carry the trash out well. If I drop something, I stop and I pick it up. I don't leave it laying in the alley or the driveway, right?
Small things are big things.
Yeah, Glenn Ann just said, and that's huge. The small things in the big picture become the huge things. It's details. So T is teachable. Keep an open mind and be willing to learn. Be hungry. E is excellence. Attack everything you do with your best. The A of the acronym is about being accountable. And that word for young people can be confusing. So what I tell them is I say, take your finger, and I'll tell them, point at me. This is the one time I'll let you do that, and say, you can count on me. And I encourage them to learn. Accountable just means that you're a person that everyone around you can count on. You show up when you make commitments. You know, we live in a society that's become so litigious. Oh, do you have a contract for that? Do you have an agreement we can sign? Why can't we just shake hands and do what we say? And so basically accountable means if I tell you I'm going to be there at 11, I'm going to be there at 10:45. If I tell you I'm going to sign that paper and get it done, I'm going to sign the paper and get it done. If I tell you I'm going to move that load for you, that load will be moved. You don't have to worry about it. And so I encourage people from a leadership, a parenting, any perspective, lead and be accountable. Be a person that everyone can look to and trust. I also sometimes tell people, don't be the person that walks in the room and everyone goes, oh no, they're back. Yeah. Be the person who walks in the room and everybody goes, oh, thank God they're here. It's like that. It's like that 25-year, one of my mentors says it like this, that 25-year fire captain that's been through all kinds of emergencies, fires, and disasters. He walks on the scene and all the young guys kind of are able to catch a breath and go, okay, he's here. Things are going to be okay. Be that person in the life of the people around you. So that's accountable.
Another piece with accountability is that accountability to yourself, because whenever you make a commitment to do whatever it is, you know, I've heard you guys talking about the Farrell's Extreme, you know, the 10-week challenges and those things, and the power of I've committed to this thing, whatever this thing is, and then I follow through with it, and how empowering that is personally. That's huge. That whenever I've said I'm going to do this, and then you actually do it. Man, that momentum you create is powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's and right along those lines, you know, you plan to get up at 5:30 in the morning and work out, and you dread it. Probably most days, you're like, oh, I gotta go. But when you're done, you walk out feeling so accomplished, right. Like, oh my gosh, my day is going to be so much better. And it's like she said, being accountable to yourself. Make the commitment, follow through, man, because there's no one stopping you except for you, right? It's in your own head. So be teachable, hungry to learn, excellent in everything, accountable. M is motivated. And for us, we tie this back to what's our why. Remember the filters I mentioned earlier? This acronym is a filter for decision making, but I have some other orders of priority in my life that I filter decisions through as well. So it's not just the teamship acronym, but I have an order of priorities in my life, and it's relevant to being motivated. Who am I most responsible to first? For me in my life, I'm responsible to Jesus, to God first. Second, I'm responsible to myself. Third, I'm responsible to her, my other half, the part that completes me. And then I'm responsible to my kids, my team, our business, our organization. And so when I sometimes get up and I think, man, I don't feel like going and training. I don't feel like going to work today. And I kind of get a little whiny inside because I do it all the time. I think to myself, okay, how's God looking at this? Am I serving him well? Am I taking the gifts he absolutely gifted me? And am I doing with them what he wants for me to do with them? Am I refilling and fueling myself so that I can serve my wife? Is this decision allowing me to be my best for her? Because some people are like, you put yourself before your wife. In ways I do, because if I'll constantly pour myself out as a leader in my family and home and everywhere, I can't serve her well. And so you have to refill your own cup. So anyway, back to motivated, there's not much more motivational than me looking at her and thinking, I got to protect her. I got to prepare my children for her. I got to provide for her. And yes, she is super independent. She's exceptionally intelligent. She's very capable. That's not the point. It's just, I feel like my job is to serve her in every way possible to allow her to be her best. And so with that said, that's my why. That's my motive. That's what motivates me. So we have to find something bigger than us, serving in an organization, serving in your church, serving in your business. I have people that come to us and work for us and they fall in love with it because of what we do, just like Farrell's Extreme. You guys change lives in such a massive way. And I feel like we do too. And people fall in love with that, and it becomes kind of their service to their community. And so hopefully that makes sense. But this, being teachable and open-minded to learning and excellent at everything that I do, not being excellent, but giving my best. I'm never going to be the best at everything. Accountable, you can count on me. You can count on my team. Being motivated, knowing my why. I have a hard decision come along, and again, I think through it. Am I teachable in that? Is that serving God? Am I accountable to people in that? Am I serving my wife by making that decision? How is that going to affect and impact our family? How's that going to impact my team and employees? And so then the C, I'll kind of run through these fast, and then we can talk about them a little bit. But C is courteous. Just be kind to everybody, no matter what. Because the reality is I don't know the fight that you're fighting right now. You know, sometimes I tell kids in school, because bullying is a big deal. I get it. It will never end. I hope everyone hears that. Because little boys always fight for pecking order. It's how we're wired. It's how we're made. It's just going to happen. And it becomes bullying in ways. Or little girls do it too. It's just part of growing up and finding who we are and our boundaries. I'm not saying bullying is okay. But we have to learn how to deal with it. But courteous. I tell kids sometimes, and they'll come to me and say, there's this kid that keeps picking on me. And I'll set them down and say, listen, it's not okay that they're doing that, but maybe what's modeled for them in their life, that's all they know. Maybe there's someone that's constantly picking on them in their home, or maybe they don't have a home. Maybe they're a kid that literally slept in a closet and didn't have breakfast this morning and they're angry at the world. And it's not your job to punish them. What it's your job to do is, if you have to avoid them, but try to make friends with them. Try to communicate with them a little bit and just say, I just want to be your friend, right? So the point of it is kill them with kindness, courtesy. The H, honest. Speak the truth. And Glenann spoke to this a while ago very well, to yourself first. One of the hardest things we have trouble with as humans is honestly reflecting and seeing, where am I at? I want to be a world champion. Where am I truly at today? And how do I build a map to get there? And that's difficult. We have to be honest with ourselves first. And then once we're honest with ourselves and we understand personal integrity inside, then we need to have that integrity with everybody around us. I told you I'm going to be there. I told you I'm going to commit. It's back kind of like accountability. You can depend on me. I'm going to make that happen. So courteous, honest. The I is inspiration. I tell people we chant out, I am the inspiration. And here's why. I kind of believe, and I think we believe, that if a person comes to work every day hungry to learn and willing to take feedback, they're teachable, they want to grow. If they come to work every day and they attack their job with excellence and help with excellence and do their part with excellence, you can always count on them because they're accountable. They're always motivated. You don't have to beg them to do their job. They're courteous and kind to everyone. They speak the truth. They own their wins and they own their failures. They become a person that everyone looks to. They're like a magnet. And so they become the inspiration, kind of back to what I said earlier, inspire, breathe life into. They become a person that brings life to the room. And then lastly, the P of the teamship acronym is perseverance. And I think that it comes last because when you wake up on those days when excellence is not at the front of your mind and you're going to have a hard time with it, you got to jump to the end of the acronym and persevere and do it anyway. If you're having trouble being motivated, persevere and do it anyway. You know, I tell sometimes, and I speak to kids a lot, I speak to adults too, but I tell kids, you know, little kids like, I don't feel like it. And I say, do you think your dad or your mom wake up every day feeling like going to work to provide for you? They don't. They have tummy aches too. They feel bad too. They have issues they struggle with, but they don't tell you about it. And they get up and they do it anyway because that's what responsible people do. So anyway, that's the Team CHIP acronym, and that's one of the things we use to filter business decisions, marital decisions, parenting decisions through to help us to stay on track. So hopefully that makes sense. Do you guys have some sort of filters you run things through?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we really break it down like that, but just some of my thoughts as you're talking about this, and we can go into our next segment too, but like, because you guys work with kids, more younger people, we work with adults primarily. So I think where Glennon had said, that it's more about yourself, I see that how it relies to our members as that's all intrinsic. That's all that people need to be thinking about for themselves, instead of just like how that's going to, work for their business, how that's going to work for, you need to apply all of that for yourself. Because as we get older, we tend to put ourselves last,
Yes.
So if you apply all of that to yourself and wake up and run it through that filter and how you're serving yourself in the best way, I think that's something that adults, we tend to not do. And I think that's important to kind of keep in the forefront of taking care of yourself and just being here as long as possible and doing the things that you don't want to do, working out and eating vegetables when you don't want to, but I think that's really important. And it's something that we lose as we get older because we get so just bogged down by the responsibilities of everything, and you lose kind of sight of yourself. So I think that's kind of how I see kind of what that was all, how that all went through. But so that's kind of my thought. But I do have another thought for the next segment, though.
All right,
we
we want to go to a break.
Yeah, we can go to a break right
now.
All right,
okay.
We'll go to a break. When we come back, Chip and Glenann Townsend will be with us for a couple more segments. 93.7 The Ticket FM.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's post-game show and the final word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis, and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's post-game show and the final word. Live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill. Brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is "My job is people, everyone is my business." But unfortunately, in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Let's do it. Let's get away. Let's go outside, cast a line, and reel in good times with our family and friends. Get a little peace, quiet, and relaxation, and make some memories that will last a lifetime. Let's do it. Let's Fish Nebraska. Start planning your fishing trip today at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The Ticket Water Cooler with Jake Bakoven and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
I thought this season was about the buyout. Maybe the season was truly about belief in Scott Frost turning it around. I don't know if I'm the idiot for thinking it was about the buyout or if they're the idiot for thinking that Scott Frost was going to truly turn it around.
Maybe you think you put somebody's feet to the fire, they might change a little bit.
The whole idea just didn't make any sense to me.
It really did.
16-31, you got to do something. He was 15-29. It's the same win percentage.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too, and that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more. When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it. We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors. Whether they are in the mountains of New Mexico, the plains of Nebraska and Kansas, the ranches of Oklahoma and Texas, the farmlands of Missouri and Arkansas, or the bayous of Louisiana, we are here for our hometowns. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Now back to Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hey, welcome back into the Fitness Fanatics. If you miss any part of our show, you can check out our podcast on theticketfm.com. We are located under the Ticket Weeknights tab under there. If you have any questions for us, you can reach us at 402-464-5685 on the Starter Heyman text line. We're joined with, I'm just like tongue-tied. We're joined on air with Chip and Glenn Ann Townsend.
That was fine.
I'm going to turn this over to Nicole. She has a question and kind of a subject she wants you to cover for the next 10, 15 minutes while we have before our next break. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
When you were giving the acronym, that's a hard word to say.
Acronym.
I know. Acronym.
Say it 10 times fast for me.
No, I can't say it one time slow. I think I can. Even the closed captioning had me say it wrong. Anyway, so the motivation one, that is one that sometimes we use that word a lot too. And sometimes that word can be frustrating in the sense that people say, well, I'm not very motivated to do this or whatever. But what I really liked that you had said and that like really struck me is when you broke it down into your motive, which I think is so different than motivation. Like one is passive and one is active. And I think that motive is really active. And I really liked that a lot. But, and I just want to kind of have you talk about what to do, what you've done. I'm sure you've seen lots of your students that have kind of started off gung-ho and kind of lost that motivation or have really struggled to start. So one of the things I like to say jokingly, so growing up, I went to church with my grandmother and my aunt, and my mom would never go. And she would always say that she wanted to wait until she was right with the Lord to go to church. And so I will sometimes kind of push that back on people when they say they don't want to start, our 10-week program until they're healthy or in shape or until they can exercise. And it's like the same thing. You start exercising to get healthy, to get into shape. You go to church to get right with the Lord. So I always like to use that kind of analogy when I'm talking to people. But what do you do in those situations when people are struggling to start or struggling to stay consistent, stay motivated through their journey?
Man, that's a $1 billion question in my mind, right?
Right.
So there are a few strategies and a few things we do. One of the first things that I do, if it's a student who's going and they're losing motivation, a lot of times I'll ask them a question. Do you remember your first day? I think the power of reflection is amazing. So in other words, they'll be, a year or two in, or 6 months in, and all the time they'll be saying little things like, man, I've lost this weight, or man, I can touch my toes and I've never been able to do that before. And there's just all these little things. And so I think it's also relevant to talk about a little bit. Many times when people come to us for martial arts, they come thinking, I want to learn how to defend myself. I want to learn how to fight back, because they're thinking in this little silo of like, I'm going to learn how to hit or how to, and then they get into the program, just like with you guys, and all of a sudden they find it's almost like a giant family and this really positive culture that makes them feel good, and they're constantly encouraged, right? And so they get going with that, and they make comments like, man, I've gone down two shirt sizes, or I can touch my toes and I've never been able to do that before. And so one of the first things I do when people start talking about wanting to pull away or losing motivation is, do you remember your first day? The power of reflection. A lot of times, just that question alone, they kind of go back. You see them go back in their mind, and they're like, "Oh yeah." And I'll ask them things like, "Do you remember making the comment to me about your, going down pant sizes? Or do you remember the time that you did X in class and you didn't think you could?" Another thing that we do is whenever people test for black belt, we have them write papers, and we strategically give them topics. And without trying to be too obvious, it's topics like, how would you define martial arts in your life? And then whenever they start to struggle, sometimes we pull those papers out and have them look at them. We go, do you remember when you wrote this? And try to encourage them to get back to that feeling. We talk in terms of feeling sometimes too. We'll say, do you remember the feeling?
We have that with teams that are going into like a big competition, and you're looking at going into hours of prep. That's going to have to happen. The practice is not always, everybody wants to be the champion until they realize what it is to be, what has to happen to be the champion, or everybody wants to be fit until they actually, all of those things. We understand that. And one of the little things that we say is, I need you to remember the feeling. Remember that feeling of stepping off of the stage and that little kid going, "You're amazing." Or think back to a time, and we've done this, with people in fitness areas, where it's like, remember a time whenever you felt great. That may be 20 years ago. Okay, remember how good that felt. You can have that again.
Yeah, just reminding. Yeah, sorry, Nicole.
No, you're good. I like that a lot. So that reminds me of, and I'm bringing this up because I saw this on your website. You kind of have an affiliation or sponsorship or something with Dave Kovar.
Right.
And so Dave Kovar has spoken at the Farrell's things before too. And he years ago at one of our extravaganzas, he gave a talk, and he talked about how, as a business owner, how every day when you're walking in, like being grateful, being thankful, reflecting, and as you're putting your key in the door, walking into the door, kind of setting up that gratefulness and stuff. And that has stuck with me for years and years. And it's not every day, but multiple times, probably a week, a month, I put the key in the door and I think about that. And I think that's important because, like, with our members or people their first day starting, with martial arts, not even always thinking about the great things, but thinking about how far you've come, and trying to get people to remember, like, tomorrow is your first day. October 3rd will be our first kickboxing class for our next group of people, and having them really think about, be aware of how you feel when you walk into that door the first day, and then how every day your confidence builds every time you walk in the door. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand. And that really made me think of that kind of Dave Kovar little story too, which really still sticks with me.
Yeah, that makes me super happy because he and I are very close, and I will pass that back along to him. He'll be hearing that.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking, Nicole, that's super powerful. Like in martial arts, we bow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple of things we tell our students all the time are we don't wear shoes on the mat and we bow, which I know that's a little different than the ferals, you know, on the mat. But we tell people when you bow, think of pouring yourself out. You're emptying your cup. And when you walk on the mat, you're kind of a blank slate ready to receive, right? We tell people when you take your shoes off, really kind of before you bow, put your problems in your shoes. Put your whole day in there. Put your whole month if you need to. Whatever you're struggling with, leave it in your shoes, put it on the shelf, bow into your cup, blank your slate, let that hour or 45 minutes or 2 hours, whatever it is, be just for you to refill yourself, to rejuvenate, to serve yourself, right? And when you leave the mat, you are now better equipped to handle the problems that you left in your shoes. As a matter of fact, sometimes those problems have shrunk so much they're almost gone, right? And so it's a very powerful thing. But back to what you were saying about and getting people to start, when you were talking about how do you get people sometimes to pull the trigger on starting, is I've walked by parents many times because we teach tons of adults. So we do have a lot of adults. Mm-hmm. I've walked by parents and they'll have their kids on the mat and they're leaning, right? They're like leaning when the kids are working. And I'll say, hey, why don't you try a class? You know, why don't you jump in? And a lot of times I'll get, oh, I'm too old, or oh, I'm out of shape, or oh, I need to get ready first, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
That boggles my mind. I'm like, that's what we're here for, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what I'll do sometimes, and I don't know if this is the greatest business practice, I'll go in the pro shop, I'll grab a gi or a uniform, and I'll walk by and I'll set it in their lap, and I'll say, here's a gift from me to you. I want to see you in class tomorrow. I've started a ton of adults like that have become black belts and trained for years because they want to, but they're just not quite willing to take the step. So I just shove them on the mat, kind of, right? And I've never had a single one of them come back and say, I regret starting. I really haven't. And sometimes lovingly, we ask this question. We'll ask our black belts, and you know, we have black belt get-togethers and trainings, and I'll ask them sometimes. I'll say, look, guys, if I could give you $1 million cash right now to delete every friendship, every memory, and all of your skills, who would take the cash right now? And in almost 40 years of martial arts, I've never had a single person say, I would take that money. Every single person goes, absolutely not. I love too much the culture, the friendships, the skills I built, the confidence that's grown out of this. There's no way I would change that. So, and then the last thing I'll say about that real quick is, you know, I was thinking about this quote. The best time to plant a tree was like 50 years ago. The second best is today. Plant your tree. Let's go and stop dragging your feet, right?
Yep. That's good advice. Do you have anything, Jeff?
Oh, no. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to tell you guys a quick story that I think relates around motive. So in 2008, I was at the World Breaking Competition, and in 2004 and 5, I won these titles called the World Ultimate Breaking Championship. So it was like a culmination of multiple divisions, and you had to be consistent across divisions, win divisions. And so I became kind of the guy in those divisions. In 2006, I severed my Achilles tendon, so I cut it. So I had like a year recovery. And 2007, I had an opportunity to go do a show in Vegas for somebody. And so I skipped 2 years of breaking competition. And I'm hearing people saying things like, yeah, Chip, you know, he got hurt. He can't do it anymore. And I was feeling some internal struggle with, like, man, could I go back? And there's something to be said for winning a championship. There's another thing, totally different thing to be said for defending it. And then I was feeling like not only have I won it and then defended it, but I've let it go. And now I'm kind of the underdog. I've lost my seeding. I've lost everything. Can I come back and do it again? So I went back one more time in 2008 and re-won that title. But in that competition, in one of the divisions, I broke my arm. And I thought, man, I'm done. Because the last division, I had to use that arm for breaking. And so I sit down next to my wife, and I laid my head on her shoulder because I was feeling kind of sick to my stomach. I said, I think I broke my arm. I was sure of it because I know my body pretty well. And I thought to myself, she's going to give me some grace here and say, absolutely no problem. You did your best. We'll just go home and call it good. And she whispers in my ear and she goes, you can do anything for 8 seconds. The next division was 8 seconds, breaking as many boards as you can using both hands and both feet. And so I had this moment of accountability. I had a massive boost of motivation, for lack of better words, when my other half whispers in my ear, I believe in you. I know what you can do. You can do this, right? And so I went on stage. Long story short, I set a new world record in that 8 seconds. I broke like 14 different boards with a broken arm on that one hand, but I broke 36 in 8 seconds. I upped the world record by 9 boards. But what was cool was as I was doing it, I don't really remember doing it. It was almost like kind of an out-of-body experience. I feel like it was a God moment, like he kind of swooped in and carried me through something. But it was also a reflection of being teachable. I had to look back and realize the filter that I ran all of that through. I was teachable. I was excellent. I was accountable. My wife motivated me. All of those things happened in that moment. But it was just this amazing feeling to have that happen. And then again, look back and see all those things kind of culminate, because I had put in hundreds of hours of hard killer practice to make that happen. And my muscle memory, my body kicked in, everything just happened and flowed well. And, you know, back to being motivated, if it hadn't been for Glenann whispering that in my ear, I probably would have set everything down and said, I'm out this year, guys, and walked away. And so I think it's powerful. I guess at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is important who we surround ourselves with.
Well, and it's really powerful that motivation is right in the middle of your acronym too. And that perseverance is the last one. And that's really what got you there. That's what finished it. That's the period at the end of the sentence. So I think that's pretty powerful too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. We got a few minutes here before we go to break. What's the number one piece of advice you give to our listeners that are, you know, struggling right now with finding motivation? It's like, because in the last week, I've been on a couple shows here on the ticket and had a lot of good conversations and people texting in about how they want to start, but they're scared. They're like, you know, busy kids, all kinds of stuff that we all come up with. What's the number one advice you give to those people who are, and not just starting ferals, because, you know, hopefully we have people from all over the country that listen to this on the podcast. So, you know, just starting any type of fitness routine or trying to take their life back, but they just don't know if they can do it.
The number one thing I think that I would say is, you know, back to the tree, no time like the present to get started. The guy that you look up to that's out there being hyper successful, whether it's an athlete, successful business person, whoever that is, they have the same 24 hours a day, 365 days a week you have. The feelings that you have of doubt are fully in your control. Fear, false expectations appearing real. You're building that fear in your mind. And once you take the step and you break the threshold and you step through that door for the first time, that's the biggest and the hardest step. You begin to create momentum. So I think and then the next thing, I know it's a lot, but it's not just about you. You know, you serve a bigger picture. And like I said, I kind of go back to that order of priorities. I serve God. Would God want me to sit back and be fearful? No, he wants me to be a warrior. He wants me to be a warrior for him. He wants me to step in and go hard, right? And I know it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that sometimes, but he wants me to do that so that I can take the gifts he's given me and spread those gifts, use them to serve, right? And so I would just encourage them that it's all in your mind. Those people that are successful have nothing more than you have. We look over there and we go, man, that grass looks so green. And I don't know if I can say this, but I tell people all the time, it's greener where we pee on it, man. It's greener where we water it. It's greener where we work on it, right? And
and those people have the same fears too, and stressors, and, you know, they have those too. They just have learned how to go beyond that to succeed.
Absolutely. They've wrapped their mind around the idea that it's okay to be afraid. We all are. I'm afraid every time I walk on a stage. Walking on the stage to speak at Farrell's, I was super nervous and uncomfortable inside. But I try to hone that and let it drive me. Does that make sense? I try to get up there and get in my zone and just let that fuel my fire to move forward. And
and as much as we don't like to live in fear, sorry to interrupt, but we don't like to live in fear. The only way to get over it is to face it. Like it just doesn't go away. It's not going to go away until you face it. Jeff would still be afraid to break that board right now if he hadn't been forced to do it. So the only way to get through that, over that fear, is to face it. And if you don't like to be afraid, then just face your fear.
Absolutely. It is really that simple, right?
Yeah.
But
so easy.
Sometimes in the moment facing it. But you know what else was cool with the board breaking? I'm so glad you brought that up, because I can't count how many people came up to me after and said to me, I didn't think I could do that, but it felt so amazing when I did. And I think that is the power of that little board breaking experience, is like that fear, but it's a tangible, I did it. And I feel so good. I feel accomplished. Does that make sense?
Well, and I think the question of, like with the board break or with face, what's the worst that could happen? You try this class, you fall down. Who cares?
Right.
You try to break the board, you don't break it first. Okay, try again. And whenever you really look at what's the worst that could happen, the worst, usually we have some sort of worst, this big thing in our heads. And when you realize that most people you're worried about what everybody else is thinking, but those people are actually worried about what you're thinking. And when you realize that people are not thinking about you, they're thinking about them.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
My dad told me something one time. I could hear his long story. It was dark. I could hear coyotes in the distance howling, and I was scared. And my dad walked up next to me, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Daddy, I'm scared. I hear those wolves." And he said, "Well, baby, those aren't wolves. Those are coyotes." He said, "They're not big and mean like wolves." He said, "But listen, they're more afraid of you than you are of them." Mm-hmm. And when we can wrap the idea around the guy that's up there succeeding is just as afraid as the next guy. He just understands how to kind of wrap his brain around it and push that fear back.
Right.
Now, Glenn Ann, I don't know if you know this, but this is a little story about our board.
We're supposed to go to
break.
What?
Real quick before we go. So I want to tell her this. Now, if I remember right, when people were struggling to break the board, Chip was having them use his chest as a practice shot, where he'd be like, "Come on," and they're just wham right in his chest. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. I remember it well.
All the time.
So he's like, come on. And then
that would be scarier, I think.
He's just up like this.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, hit me right here. And then he moved the board over and they were ready and they were bam.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you knew he did that or not.
Oh, yes, I do. I watch him do it all the time.
I think he might have said, "No, my wife might wonder where I got these bruises from here." I'm like,
yeah. She actually knows when I come back with a handprint on my chest. She's like, "Chip, you did it again."
That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are up on our last break.
Yep.
We'll be right back with Chip and Glenn Ann Townsend here on the Fitness Fanatics.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up. That frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a story that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family, things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, we just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You join because you are not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate
Crammed a ton of stuff in this.
What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Now back to Fitness Fanatics on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into our final segment here on the Fitness Fanatics. We've been joined over the last hour plus with Chip and Glenann Townsend.
We've covered a lot, so if you're listening on the podcast, you might have to slow it down. I feel like we've crammed a ton of stuff in this.
Yeah, don't speed it up.
No, you won't be speeding this one up.
You might miss stuff.
Yeah. You might have to slow it down a little bit just so you can catch everything.
So yeah, if you missed any part of the show, again, you can check out it on the theticketfm.com. We're under Ticket Weeknights, under the Fitness Fanatics, and we'll also be posting when the podcast gets up for everybody to go back and listen. So
you can also watch it on YouTube. I think we're trying to get our subs up.
On YouTube. If you want to go to the Ticket YouTube channel and subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're over what now? What's our little?
I think we're trying. I think we're. I don't know what our next goal is, but if we can just keep getting past 2,000, because we didn't start too long ago and it's already picking up pretty fast.
Get on the Ticket 93.7
Ticket.
Yes.
Ticket 93.7 YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. You never want to miss an episode of anything. It's just awesome local coverage all day long. So, Chip, if you can let our listeners know.
Speaking of following.
Yeah, speaking of following, I'm sure everybody that listens today is going to be like, wow, this is awesome. So how do I get more of this? Where can they find you? Social media, all the main places that they can go and look.
So probably the main place is going to be on Facebook, the Chip Townsend. I have one of those little certified blue check pages on Facebook. So I have a lot of my following there. Our Team Chip Abilene, Team Chip Martial Arts Abilene is another place that they can follow. We drip a lot of content out on both of those. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. And one of the things that we're really working hard too is moving our affiliate program. teamchipaffiliate.com is another place that people can look as well. So yeah, I don't want to overload with too many connections, but Facebook is probably one of the best places. We stay super consistent with our content and drips out there, probably more than anywhere else. So that would be the best way to stay in contact with us.
And if you could if you just on Facebook, you just look up Chip Townsend, it'll come up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you don't have a personal one, do you? Or is that just where it goes to?
Well, you can tell the difference.
Okay.
You can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I do
the
have
like
It's full.
It's
liking
full,
liking your entrepreneur page.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, we only have about a minute left. Anything you guys want to finish off the show with?
Honestly, what an honor it's been here, man. So thankful for you guys, Jeff, Nicole, fantastic. 24 years, super proud of you guys. We call it Married Like a Champ. We love it whenever people stick to those commitments, and just an honor to be here. Thank you all so much for having us. We had a blast.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We will see you guys next week.
Yep.
Have a great week. 93.7 The Ticket FM. Listen all week long.